know we had a back door.
Thank you. Well, good to be with you again. One, congratulations on the 75th anniversary of the organization. And I do want to bring out my leadership team. Some of you may know Tara Sweeney, the first female ever on Assistant Secretary. First, actually, female Senate confirmed, Native Alaskan. Tara, come on out. Then John's Kiowa, and he's one of our best lawyers. And finally, Charlie, who does our, come on up. So the reason why I have him here, because Interior is a team. And we spent some time recently on the opioid crisis. And what we did is we formed an opioid task force. Because Interior, those that don't know, Interior is 12 time zones. We stretch from the Virgin Islands all the way out to Palau. Within the Interior family, we have BLM, we have, of course, BIA, we have National Park Service, Bureau of Reclamation, but we have about 4,000 law enforcement professionals within Interior. And looking at the scale of the opioid epidemic, and I don't have to tell you, in Indian country, it's worse. A lot of reasons why, but the facts are clear, it's worse. So we formed an opioid task force working with the tribal councils, working with the tribal police to begin to root out the drug dealers. In a lot of cases, my experience is Montana, it's drugs aren't coming from the tribe, they're not coming from the reservation, they're coming from outside. Oftentimes they'll get the kids to be the mules, and it's created a crisis where some of the nations are in free fall. So the president tasked to look at the opioid crisis. My part of that was to look at forming, and we've done 8 operations thus far on the opioid crisis. We removed about $2 million worth of drugs, hundreds of arrests, hundreds of pounds, but that is a small dent into the problem. The second part of it is child trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking, and there's a nexus between drugs and those activities. So we're expanding the education on the task forces to encompass that. I would imagine this coming year, if you do a calendar year, we've done 8 last year, we'll probably double that. And what I ask is this is a crisis, an epidemic, and it's unbecoming, it is dishonorable, but we have to work together because in some of the nations that you belong to, it is tearing at the very fabric of what creates a great nation. And we're serious about it, but I need your help. And how these operations run is we usually do 2 or 3 weeks of intelligence gathering where we look, and we're not after the user, we're after the dealers. We look at the networks, we look at off-campus, who's bringing the drugs on, we surveil, we work with our Department of Justice friends to make sure that when we do an arrest, we prosecute. Because we cannot be a paper tiger. If we're gonna arrest, then we have to prosecute. And we have to do it in conjunction with the tribal police and the nations themselves. I'm a guest. And you've heard me say it many times before, sovereignty means something to me. And the word sovereignty is nation to nation. You are on equal standing with the United States of America. And in that obligation, we have to work together, and the opioid crisis is part of it. Reorganization, you've heard about it. The rest of Interior has formed unified regions, and we're reorganizing. Bureau of Indian Affairs is different. It's the People Department. And as sovereign nations, you have a say. Matter of fact, you have the say. Because the rest of Interior is reorganized. To date, right now, BIA has not. And I won't reorganize BIA unless we do it together and you agree. So So we've had roundtables. We intend to have 3 more. And the next roundtable, we're going to have the video out so all nations can understand and cut through what it is, what it isn't. In my opinion, one of the principal complaints to Indian country is consulting oftentimes is an email. We're never asked about decisions about recreation or conservation or permitting. We're told. My opinion is this is an opportunity for Indian country to be at the table in the very beginning when you scope out an EIS. Because as you know, what happens sometimes off Indian territory affects on reservations. What affects upstream affects downstream. And the lines of where Indian reservations are today do not correspond with cultural identity of the past. And so when decisions are made on permitting and pipelines and roads and bridges and wildlife corridors, they affect a nation not just now, but they affect your ancestors. And so this is the time, I think, to pay close attention and be a part of it. But again, the decision is yours, and I respect that. And lastly, I'd like to welcome 7 great tribes of Virginia, the first contact tribes to Indian country and as part of the family, the 573 federally recognized sovereign nations. And it's amazing that their journey took so long, considering they were the first contact tribes. But I understand that they did not make it today. And jokingly, I said they're going to fit right in because they do things on their own when they want to and how they want to, but they're in. And that was a big battle. 1 of them through Interior, and 6 of them, it took an act of Congress, but that's positive. So with that, I appreciate the invite. Good to see you gentlemen again, ladies. And I hope things are well. I'm bullish on Indian country. And even though you hear opioids and poverty and school, Indian country are great people. You have proud traditions. And there are a lot of good things happening in Indian country because the spirit is strong. With that, God bless and thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Did you have the